Hello guys, namaste, welcome back to my channel. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Amisha Singh Chauhan, and if you're looking for something fun, dark and mysterious, then you're at the right place. So do not forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon so that every time I'm here, you'll get to know about it. Also, do subscribe, please. It's your way of showing support to me, so do that. So before I begin with today's case, I would like to give out a small disclaimer that this video is only for educational purposes. Also, it could be triggering for some of you. It is very heavy. So what happened is on 19th of April 2008, 73-year-old Josef Fritzl along with his 19-year-old granddaughter Kirsten Fritzl go to a hospital in Amstetten, Austria. I hope, fingers crossed, that I'm pronouncing these names right. So anyways, the granddaughter is apparently in a very critical condition. She's really sick and she's immediately admitted to the ICU. Now what happens over here is that the doctors cannot make out what's exactly wrong with her, though they are running out some tests on her, but it is very important for them to know about her medical history. So now they start asking questions to the grandfather Josef Fritzl, and Josef Fritzl goes like, I don't know anything about this. So they ask where the mother is, and he's like, oh, I don't know about my daughter as well because I haven't seen her since 24 years, ever since she ran away from her house. So the doctors are like, we desperately need to find the mother and speak to her so that we can find out any medical history of Kirsten. Now what happens is that it's not their job, the hospital staff's job, to find out the mother, so they go to the police and they report it. Now over here, when police starts investigating, they realize that this is the same daughter, Elisabeth Fritzl, who apparently 2 decades ago had ran away from her house and had a missing report on her, which was closed eventually. So they open the case again and they start looking into her. Simultaneously, they're also going through security service numbers as well as educational reports and records so that they could find any information on her. And guess what? This girl literally did not even exist according to all the paperwork of the country. She had no registration on her. She had no educational records or history. So where did this girl come from? Like, she's 19 years old, and it is not possible that someone who is 19-year-old does not have any history, any document. So they obviously find this entire thing very shady. Now, so as to find the mother, the police are obviously throwing their legs and hands everywhere, and they even go to newspaper, put on articles. Doctors even go and broadcast news so that they could request the mother to come and see them in the hospital. And over here, the grandfather Josef Fritzl is being questioned. So he comes up with this letter. He's like, see, seriously, I don't know where my daughter is. I'm not hiding her or anything. This is the last letter I received from her. And when they see the letter, it does mention about a cult. It says that I want to come back home, but now is not the right time. So they approach this church officer who's also an expert in cults. So when this church officer goes through the letter, he realizes two things. First, the cult she was talking about did not really exist. Also, the letter, it looked like that it was dictated and it was written in a very odd format. So again, a lot of red flags were raised. Now what happens is 7 days later, Elisabeth Fritzl does turn up in the hospital and she looks completely, what should I say, out of the box. She looks older than her age. She looked like probably 50 or 60-year-old woman who has gone through a really rough time. Not only that, she's super pale, just like her daughter. She's very weak and fragile. She looks super sick and dehydrated herself. Now the doctor immediately speaks to her, asks her question regarding the medical history and everything. But the police at the very same time come to the hospital and take her in the custody as well as the grandfather. Now both Elisabeth Fritzl as well as Josef Fritzl, they are being questioned by police officers in different rooms. Now over here, the prime focus is Elisabeth Fritzl because she could get arrested and also trial for negligence and child abuse at the same time. So they start asking questions and she does not say anything, and this goes on for a couple of hours. And then comes a point where the police officers get really irritated and frustrated because she's not saying anything, and then they kind of threaten her of child abuse because there was she, her 19-year-old daughter, who was really sick, and it could clearly be seen that she was not getting the care and conditioning she was required. Also, they gave her the second thing that if she says the truth, if she tells them the truth, then she will never have to see her father again. And that is the thing that literally made her say everything that has happened to her in past 24 years. Something that will blow every one of us mind, and nobody was expecting this. Nobody. So apparently, according to Elizabeth Fritzl, she was kidnapped and kept as a hostage for past 24 years. She has neither ran away from her house nor joined a cult. So the question comes, who kidnapped her? Where was she kept as a hostage? And what about the kids that she had? So yes, here comes the part. She was not only kidnapped by her own father, Josef Fritzl, the same guy, the same grandfather who got the 19-year-old Kirsten to the hospital. He not only kidnapped her or kept her as a slave and a hostage, but he did that in his own house, in her own house, under the house actually, 20 feet down in a basement, or if I have to say, a cell, a prison. Yes, so Elizabeth Fritzl was kidnapped, enslaved, and raped by her own biological father, and that too for 24 years. And what was the outcome of this? 7 kids, from which only 6 survived. So let's talk about Elizabeth Fritzl for a second. She was born on 6th of April 1966, and she was one of the 7 kids of Josef and Rosemary Fritzl. Now, according to her, ever since she turned 11, she started getting abused by her own father sexually. He would slip up these sexual content, sexual magazines under her pillow. He would go around exposing himself to her in different situations. He was very possessive about her. He would not let her have a social life and would take her everywhere he would go, or wherever she was going, he was going as well. The thing over here is that I couldn't find any information as to if he was abusing his other kids as well. All we know is that she was his target. So anyways, the intensity of the abuse, it started increasing as she was growing up. And there came a point when in 1983, she decided to run away from her house. She went to Vienna, but unfortunately within 3 weeks, she was caught by the police and got back to her house in Amsterdam. Now over here, as soon as she is returned back to her father, the father says like, I promise you, I'm never gonna let you leave again. And yes, he did exactly that. So he had this entire thing plotted out as to how he was going to kidnap and keep her as his own sex slave. So in 1978, he got a permit of extension of basement. Now, there was another basement with a corridor underneath his house, but nobody knew about it except him. So what he did was he made a basement that was suiting the legal parameters. It was even inspected by the building inspectors and given a tick over it. But nobody had any idea that behind the legal basement's walls were the prison where Elizabeth was kept as a hostage for 24 years. So apparently there was this wall, in front of it was a shelf, and behind the shelf was a door. Now they had to go through 8 doors to reach the cell where Elizabeth was kept as a hostage. Now these 8 doors consisted of 2 doors which had electrical locks in it, and it could not be opened with a key but with a remote control. Not only that, there were 2 ways through which you can enter the prison. One was a hinged door which was 500 kg, and from the condition you can make out that it wasn't used because it was very heavy. The other door, which was quite often used, was 300 kg's door. It was a metal door and it had concrete reinforced on steel rails. Now when you go through all these 8 doors, you'll see a passageway, and through the passageway you'll find a living area. It was very small, so I don't even know that if I should call it a living area. It was 35 meters square foot only. So anyways, there was this living area which had a kitchen place and a bathroom. Then there's another passageway and there is 2 bedrooms. Each bedroom had 2 beds in it. Now this entire prison, initially it was barren, but as the years went by, you would install refrigerator, washing machine, television, video cassette player and things like that. So anyways, on 28th August 1984, when Elizabeth was only 18 years old, it was a nice morning that day and nobody was in the house apparently. Apart from the family members, there were also other tenants living as well. That house was basically like a small hotel with a lot of rooms. So yes, the mother was out doing grocery shopping and he found the right moment. He approached Elizabeth and he goes like, you know what, I need your help. There's a door, I need to get it fixed in the basement. Help me out with this. So she obviously agrees with it and she goes down to the basement accompanying him. Now she's right there when he's fixing the door. When the door gets fixed, he takes a rag which was soaked in chloroform and he puts it on her face. He drags her unconscious body through those 8 doors inside the prison, handcuffs her, chains her to the wall, and locks her inside. And in the initial 5 years, she was there all alone, where she would get raped thrice a week or sometimes even every day. He would force her to watch sexual content and then force her to reenact it. Not only that, in 1986, she gets pregnant by her own father and has a miscarriage, which is very unfortunate. But wait, there's more over here. So 2 years later, she gets pregnant again, and this time she requests for him to get her some medical care, but he does not do that, obviously, because it's very risky, right? So what he does is instead he gives her some books on pregnancy and delivery and gives her a pair of scissors and some tissues and aspirins. That's all. There was no electricity there, no natural light, sufficient air, and imagine in that condition, in that dark dungeon, she was supposed to give birth all by herself, and that's exactly what she did. And she gave birth to Kirsten, that exact same girl who 19 years later had to be hospitalized. So this keeps on going for a very long period of time. Eventually she gave birth to 7 kids, out of which one of them were twin boys, and one of the twin boys died 3 days later because he had some respiratory issues and he needed medical care, but Yosef did not allow that. In fact, he himself burned him in the furnace and then cremated his body. So what happens is, after the 4th child was born, he realized that there was not enough space inside the basement, inside the prison. So he made Elizabeth and the kids to dig up with their own bare hands so that they could make a room. So when Lisa was born, she was the 4th child, and when she turned 9 months old, he literally put her in a box along with a letter he forced Elizabeth to write, which said that I cannot take care of my baby, this is my baby girl, and please take care of her. And he took the baby upstairs so that his wife Rosemary can take care of her. Now what he exactly did was, he put the baby in the box in front of the porch, in front of the main door, and then I don't know, he rang the bell or something. The wife would open the door and find the baby in the basket or in the box. And this did not happen once, but it happened thrice with Lisa, Monica, and Alexander. Now, obviously, they had some difference in the time period. And the strange thing is that these were foundling babies and nobody suspected anything. In fact, the child services, they would often visit so as to check their condition and living and everything else. And they were very impressed by the way Yosef and Rosemary were bringing up their daughter's children. And the thing is, like I said, nobody was suspecting anything. Instead, they were very sympathetic towards these old people because they had so many kids. One of their daughter ran away and joined a cult, and now she's popping these babies and dropping it on her parents' porch, which was very sad. So now the question comes is, what kind of man, what kind of father can do this? Actually, calling him a father or a man is a shame. He is monster, a terminology he really persisted on people not using it for him, which I really find it stupid. So this man, let's talk about him for a second. So Yosef Fritzl was born on 9th of April 1935. His mother, initially during the trials, he said that she was a wonderful woman and she was as strict as any parent should be. But then later on, he started opening about her and he told everyone how violent she was and how violence and abuse was in his blood. So let's talk about his history. So apparently his grandmother had a loveless marriage, and the reason was she could never conceive a baby. So what the husband did was, the grandfather did was, he had babies with 3 of his servants, and one of the babies was Marie, Yosef Fritzl's mother. And Yosef Fritzl always said that he was an alibi child. He was a single child, and the only reason why his mother gave birth to him was to prove everyone that she was not barren. And the father, who was a very poor man, he left them, he abandoned them when Fritzl was only 4 years old. And he joined the army in World War II, fought over there, and eventually died in the war. Now over here, Yosef Fritzl's mother is very abusive, violent, and very authoritarian, just like Yosef himself. Now what she does is, she gets into fight, she is arrested and put into a concentration camp, and when she's in the camp, Yosef is put in an orphanage, and when she comes back, she gets more violent. He remembers there were days where he would be hungry, lying on the floor in his own pool of blood because his mother was so physically violent. She would call him useless, Satan, and stuffs like that. But once he turned 15, things completely changed. What happened is that he started educating himself. He was really smart. He became a mechanical engineer, and by the time he was 21, he got married, he had a house, and in the house, Marie came in as well. Now the roles completely reversed. It was Yosef who was torturing and abusing his mother. Some even say that for 20 years, he locked her in the attic of his house and bricked up all the windows and told the neighbors that she died. And for 20 years, he imprisoned her in in that very same attic until 1980 when she eventually died. Now, like I said, when he turned 21, he married Rosemary and she was 17 years old then. And unlike him, she was very submissive, very shy, she was not so talkative. Together, they have 7 kids. Now, there is one point that does indicate his capability of violence. So in 1967, Josef Fritzl was arrested for rape. He had actually followed a mother, a nurse who was 24 years old, to her house, and when the husband was away, he raped her on knife point while the baby was sleeping just beside her on the cot. And he was put in the prison for 18 months, but he served only 12 months. Now during this time, the wife would often visit him and she was completely fine. It looked like that she had forgiven him already. So anyways, he comes back to his normal life. Nobody knows about this except the wife herself. And the thing is that according to Austrian law, I don't know if it's still the same. I mean, I read it somewhere that it's in the parliament, they're questioning about it and things like that. But anyways, back in the days, what happened is that after 15 years, no matter what your crime is, no matter what the intensity of your crime is, it would get cleaned off. Like it would get expunged from the public records or the criminal records of the country. So yes, after 25 years, when he was foster caring his grandchildren or children with his own daughter or adopting these kids, the social services, the social child services had no idea about his rape history. So that's why they did not question or did not smell anything foulish in this situation. Now that was him. So what happens is that the very same day, Josef Fritzl gets arrested on suspicion of crime against his own family members, and on 27th of April, everyone, Elizabeth, her 6 kids, 3 who were living with her downstairs and 3 who were living with Rosemary and Josef upstairs, along with Rosemary herself, were taken into psychiatric care. They were placed in a villa which was under the psychiatric care. They were given therapy, and that was what was going on. Over here, Josef was put in a trial for 4 days. So like she was promised that she would never see her father again, she put up a testimony in a video. And while the video was being played out in the court with no media inside, some of the jurors could not even see half of it. They literally left the courtroom because it was so horrendous. And you know what? There were actually 4 extra substitute jurors present in the court because everyone knew that it's going to get really ugly and some people might not be able to hear it. And all this time, Josef was behind a blue binder which was accepted by the Austrian law. He would not see anyone. And until then, he was giving out these statements that whatever relationship he had with his daughter, it was consensual, that she gave him the permission to do what he was doing. I mean, there were days when Elizabeth said that he would make her watch pornography and reenact it again in front of her kids so as to shame her. He would threaten them of gasifying them, not giving them food or water. Also, he threatened that if they would ever try to escape, they would get electrocuted because supposedly the doors had wires and stuff. Though during the investigation, they did not find anything of that. It was just an empty threat. So whatever, in the court, in the trial, he's giving out these things that, it was a consensual relationship. He did not rape her. There was no murder or anything involved. Now, the defense attorney, he goes on saying that though there is evidence of incest in this case, but there's no evidence of rape or murder. So what happens is that how did he get convicted? If he was so strong and he's smart, like I said, he would not just go on accepting that he did what he did. He had no remorse. He even said that he was born a rapist, and for a very long time he was contending it to himself. He was controlling himself, and there had to be a point where he had to show his real emotions and his real personality. So that's exactly what he did. Over that, he even said that initially he imprisoned her because she was going out of his way. She was not adhering to the rules and regulations that he had. She was drinking, she was frolicking around, joining cult and stuffs like that. Like, he completely depraved his daughter's character, and so as to discipline her, he made that prison and enslaved her so as to teach her a lesson and how to be a good daughter. And eventually he raped her. So anyways, on the second day of trial, Elizabeth comes to the courtroom. I know there was no need for her to come. The officials were really supportive of her not seeing her father again physically. But I feel like it is so brave of her to do it. I mean, I don't usually involve my personal opinions in the middle of the story. I keep it for the end. But anyways, over here I feel like I literally should say this, that she is so strong, so brave. I cannot imagine being locked in a room for 24 hours And here she was locked in a dungeon for 24 years by her own father, who was supposed to protect her. And the roles have completely reversed, because there he is, handcuffed behind the bars. He does not have his freedom. He is surrounded by police officials. And here she was, free, walking as an independent woman that she is, and she deserved to be. So anyways, as soon as they have the eye contact, apparently he broke down. He started crying. He realized what he did, and he accepted all the charges that he was accused of. Eventually, he was convicted of murder of negligence of Michael, the other twin who died, and also of decades of enslavement, false imprisonment, rape, incest, and so on and so forth. So he would never be able to walk out of the jail again as a free man. Over here, Elizabeth, along with her kids and the mother, Rosemary, they're put in under psychiatric help. Now, there are sayings that the mother, as in Rosemary, and Elizabeth, they did not have a good relationship. She literally kicked her out because she was very passive for whatever has happened to her. And if you ask me about Rosemary, I don't know, I'm on the fence for this. I mean, it is so impossible to think that all this time she had no doubt. She did not question her husband about Elizabeth. She could see clearly that he was so obsessive about her. And at the same time, she said that she was getting abused by her father since she was 11 years old. And how come her mother never noticed it? And how come she never realized that this was the man who raped a woman at knife point while the baby was sleeping just beside her? And also, he was also a suspect of indecent exposure to a 21-year-old girl. And after knowing all of this, how could you not suspect something foul over here? But her sister says that she was a woman, she was very submissive, and the husband was very dominating. He was very violent. She could not question him of anything. Anyways, they did not have a good relationship initially, but from the recent articles that I've read, they're actually trying to mend the relationship. Whereas the kids who were living downstairs, they are doing pretty well. They are well mannered. She's an amazing mother. I'm very happy for them that in the end of all of this suffering, they get to be free. So apparently they are in an unknown place in a village in north of Austria. They're living their lives properly. They are being conditioned. They are being taught and under psychiatric and psychological care, because it takes a lot of time for them to adjust, space, to free air, to sunlight, and things like that. So that brings me to the end of the case. And even with all the negativity and ugliness, I'm happy that at least they have a happy ending. I would like to know your opinions on this case. And what do you think? The mother knew about this or not? Was she involved? Is she supposed to be blamed or not? Also, tell me your views on Yusuf Fritzl. That's all for the day. Take care of yourself. Bye bye. See you until next time.